He looked at me and he said, "Pretty boy, what are you doing coming up here in my neighborhood buying my crack cocaine with that Bible laying on your seat?" And I went, hello, thank you very much. I don't have a whole lot of time to tell you where I was in life. So God has picked out some very critical points of when at about the age of 13, I tried to redirect my life and run my own life without God in it. About that time, I started smoking, was raised in a church, loved going to church, couldn't wait to get there. Singing those old hymnals, the Old Rugged Cross, the Lighthouse, Amazing Grace. I mean, but at that young age, I knew there was something there. I mean, something there with a substance. And but at about the age of 13, I made a critical choice in my life that would alter the direction of my life for the next 35 to 40 years. I started smoking cigarettes. And that choice was a fire on one end and a fool on the other. And I really didn't realize what would happen to me in the years to come, but that cigarette led me away from Christ. I didn't want no more God in my life anymore. I didn't want to go to church anymore. I wanted to rebel and run my life. And in doing so, it almost took me out. But from the cigarettes with no God, it went from cigarettes to marijuana. And from marijuana, it was now alcohol. You know, now I want some alcohol. And it was a domino effect in my life. And the further I ran, at least I thought I was running from God, I'm in a whirlpool now. And in this whirlpool, if any of y'all know, a whirlpool eventually will pull you down to where you're going. But I stayed at the top for a long time, maintaining my life, I thought, with no God. But at about when I was a junior in high school, now here's a God that I was rebelling against and I was running from. I was sinning. I was a hardcore sinner now. But my God and your God knows tomorrow. He knows next year. And on a Sunday afternoon, God placed 2 advanced paramedics at my house. And that afternoon, I crashed my dirt bike about 8 houses up. And I lied motionless on the road, and 2 of my friends ran down to the house and said, "Jay's hurt. He's crashed his motorcycle." And they ran and grabbed the keys to the station wagon, and you know, they cradled me over to the hospital. And when the doctors finally had me stable in the critical care unit, they came out and told my parents that we have your son stable. And he's in critical care, but we must tell you that he's got a 50-50 chance of making it to Monday. And then they paused a second, my mother told me, I don't remember nothing about that day, that they said if he makes it. But because God had other plans for me, even though I was a rebellion. So now we're going to speed up a little bit. I was into cocaine now, and in 1979, a God that loves me so much, who I thought I was running from, was always right here with me. In 1979, we had a moving and storage company back then, and we had a shipment that needed to go to Memphis, Tennessee. And out of 12 drivers, everybody was there. My father looked at me and said, "Jay, I want you to take this to Memphis." Well, from New Bern to Memphis is 1,000 miles, so I had to leave on a Wednesday. Arrived out there and took care of the business and came on in the early morning hours of Sunday. And that afternoon when I rested up, I rode up to Jerry house, my best friend, and he told me that they'd done some, so he said, good cocaine last night. And I told him, "Jerry, I'm glad I wasn't here." We were all using intravenously now back then, and about 8 of us, and had a little clique. And Jerry, on a Wednesday, he was admitted to the hospital, and my mother was working there, and she went to go speak with Jerry. And he said that he ate some bad seafood at the beach and he was sick. Well, the next couple of days, 6 more of our cliques, my cliques, they were all admitted and quarantined off from the 4th floor of the hospital. And the only way you could go in was a bodysuit. But within 2 weeks, 7 of my friends were gone because of using bad cocaine. that killed me. And here I am, a hardcore sinner, y'all. But God put me 1,000 miles away. He pulled me out and says, you're going to go there. And I was 1,000 miles. If I had been in Memphis, I'd have been right there, and I'd have been number 8. But my God loved me so much, and a hardcore sinner that I was. And so my life goes on. And I met a beautiful woman. We got married, but I was still running from God. I still had a void in me that I knew I needed Him, but I just couldn't. I felt like I had ran so far and so long that my God didn't want me back no more. And I listened to the devil over and over and over again, and he always would entice me, and I would go right back. We eventually, Rosie and I eventually separated, and we got divorced, and I sped up a little bit. In 1994, I was really running hard now. I was running so hard that if y'all see these shoes that these children wear that they light up when they walk, well, I had an adult size, and I ran so hard that my lights never went out. They say, whoop, there he goes, he's going to go get another fix. And sure enough, then I went into what they call the hood, and that night I became a victim of a violent crime. I was shot twice. And the first one went through my left arm right there, and the shot was so powerful, shooting me from the passenger window, that it just blew my arm. It blew the window out. My arm went out the window, and I had to take my right hand and grab and lay it across my lap. And I grabbed the steering wheel, put it in reverse, and as I'm coming around, he's in front of me now, and he fires off another round, and it hit like dead center. If it had been 2 inches higher from the windshield cap, it would have hit me right here in my chest. And as I'm coming out and going around, he shoots the passenger side of the truck 3 times, and then I felt myself walk to the right, and I told myself, he got me again. And every time I took a breath, now I hate to say that, but it's every time I took a breath, I could hear the inside of my body gurgling. And I knew that bullet went in my back, and I knew it didn't come out. And so I drove myself to a police station, and I knocked on the door first. It's about 11 o'clock now at night. I went in about 10:45 on that Sunday, and I grabbed the doorknob, and it was locked. So I told myself, Jay, if you don't drive yourself to the hospital, you're going to die. Because I could see the blood running out of my arm, and I could feel it running down my back, and I knew I was going to bleed out if I didn't get some help. And as I got back on the highway, there was a truck coming at me, and this shone as bright as day inside this truck, and I could tell he was telling me to stop. But I told myself, oh God, he's got in this truck. If I stop, he's going to kill me because he thinks I can identify it. But I couldn't, and it happened so fast. And I pulled in 31st Street, and he pulled in right behind me, and I got out. I said, I've been shot. He said, I'm an off-duty EMT. Come have a seat on my truck. I'm here to help you. And I got on his truck, and he grabbed 2 gauze bandages and put it around my arm and took my belt off. And then as he started to grab another one to lay me down, he said, oh no, you're bleeding too bad. He said, let's go have a seat on your truck. And so I listened to him. I thought, man, I've been, blood everywhere. But I listened to the man, and he laid me down for the tourniquet on my back to try to slow the bleeding down. And he said, I'm going to call for help. And he runs around the corner, and he comes right back. And I told myself, he didn't call for help. He didn't have enough time. What did he do? Well, within minutes, he's asking all these questions. Where are you from? How long you lived here? Da, 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 da. And I can remember my head falling to the left, and he snatches it back up and said, you got to keep talking to me, Jay. You can't do this. And within minutes, there was police cars everywhere. But then here he is parked right behind me, but when the ambulance drives up, this man that said he was an off-duty paramedic had just vanished. It's like he was never there. He was gone. About a year later, I read the book Angels by Billy Graham, and I went right back to that same night, and I realized what had happened to me that night. I realized that an angel had just been there to administer me help to save my life. And here I was, a hardcore sinner, running from God just as fast as I could run, but he never left me. I'm the one that walked away or ran from him. And so now I went right back to my old ways. And about a year later, I went back to the same corner I got shot at. And I had a Bible laying on my seat, on the passenger seat. I saw a man standing there with a flashy, orangey, reddish suit, three-piece vested suit, hat, shoes, everything. And we made a little nod to know, to make our little deal. And he opened up my door and he said, 1 foot in and 1 foot out. He looked at me and said, "What do you want?" And I said, "I want a 20. He looked down at that Bible and looked back up at me with 1 foot in my truck, 1 foot out, but wouldn't get in with that Bible on my seat. Second time he looked at the Bible and looked up at me and just stared at me, and I'm sitting there thinking, man, come on, get in my truck. I'm a white boy, black man, cop go by, po-po, drug deal, you're going to get busted. But the third time he looked down at that Bible and he looked back up at me. It's like a force just overcame me. And I reached over there and just grabbed that Bible and I just threw it in the back seat, just like it was a piece of trash. He got in and we rode around the corner, and I let him out parallel to where I picked him up at 1 block over. And he looked at me and he said, "Pretty boy, 1 foot in, 1 foot out." He looked at me and he said, "Pretty boy, what are you doing coming up here in my neighborhood buying my crack cocaine with that Bible laying on your seat?" And I went, I drove the distance of about the pickup truck and I stopped when I got out and I looked everywhere around, very open area, and he was gone. Sometime later, I asked an ordained pastor, Grady Sims in Asheville, could the devil touch the Bible? And he said, "Why do you ask?" And I told him the story I just told y'all. And he started shaking his head, "No." And I said, "He can't touch it, can he, Grady?" He said, "No." And then he asked me, why did I move it? But yet the force that overcame me when he looked at me that third time, it's just like I was a puppet. And I threw it right in the back seat and didn't hesitate. My life, Rose and I separated, and in '99 she passed away from an overdose on Oxycontin after we were divorced, and I still continued to run, but in all my running, I never realized that you can't outrun God because God's love is everywhere. And so I guess I became like Forrest Gump. I guess that one day I just stopped running. And I turned around. It only takes, no matter how far you've drifted off the path to Christ, it only takes one step to turn around and come back. And that's it. And so I turned around. I quit my running. I lived a very dark and cruel world for 35 to 40 years. And I lived it, I thought, without Christ. But Christ was always with me in every storm I ever put myself into. He always put wind in my sail and got me to the other side, although I didn't think he was there. I could go on and on with where I was when I was detached from Christ, but I thought I was, but I never was, because he was always there with me and always carried me through every storm. I don't know where any of y'all are in life today. I just know where I was. I'm not there anymore. I don't live that hell. I don't live that no smiles, no laughing, no joy, no tears. I'm a man that today I cry. Then I couldn't cry because I was too full of hatred. All I wanted to do was just run and run my life, but I realized that I can't run my life without God in it. So folks, I don't know where y'all are, but it only takes one step to turn around. One step, and you can turn around, and he'll be there waiting for you. Thank you.
Wow. What a story. What a story of God's love for each and every one of us.
Last time here I spoke about enjoying your life. Today's the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. That was our Bible verse. Because I rejoice and I'm glad in every day, okay? And I choose to be. And I like to have fun. And I told you some funny stories because I'm a jokester and a prankster. And I have been this weekend as well. And that's good. But I just want you to know, today's the day the Lord has made. Rejoice and be glad in it. I'm already rejoicing. That testimony, wow, just powerful. And it just shows us that we're made to laugh. We're made to love. We're made to enjoy. And if anyone makes you feel guilty for that, don't go there. So on that note, I'm going to tell you a little story I heard about a guy in a town that was very rich. He was the richest man in town, and one day he decided to have a party at his house. And he invited the whole town to his house to show him this new swimming pool he had. So they all came in the backyard, and this swimming pool is just a huge old pool, but in it is filled with sharks and alligators. And they thought, what in the world's this guy doing? So they all gathered around the pool, and he said, listen, he said, I am so wealthy. He goes, I'm just bored. He goes, but I'm going to make a statement. He goes, anyone that can swim the length of this pool, he goes, I'll give you whatever you want. About that time, he hears a splash. And this guy is just swimming and swimming and swimming and swimming. He couldn't believe it. He gets out on the other side, out of breath. He goes over to him, and the rich man says to him, I can't believe you just did that. He goes, I'm a man of my word. He goes, I will give you whatever you want. And the guy looks at him, breathing heaven, and he looks up, he goes, you know what I want? He goes, I want the name of the person who just pushed me in. Now, let me ask you a question. When he found out the name of the person that pushed him in, do you think he had compassion on him? Because today, that's what I'm going for. I'm going for compassion. Today's message is on compassion. That's simple. Simple title, compassion. Last race, I was heading to Memphis, Tennessee. I get to the airport. Wednesday night, we're going to come in early and test. Get there, and the weather in Florida in the evenings is really not that great. It was a delay. Finally, they canceled my flight. I said, okay, went home, drove an hour back home. Next morning, had a 7 a.m. flight. I said, okay, we'll get this going early in the morning. I got back to the airport the next morning. At my gate, no problem. They were boarding the plane. I was the last zone, and no big deal. And I happened to look over to my right, and there's a lady, a little lady, in one of the wheelchairs they give people. They're usually pretty good size because they fit anybody. And she's trying to roll it. You know how the arms have to go over and grab the handrails and roll it? And she couldn't quite reach. So she's going probably from me to that chair in, a minute. And I looked over to see if anybody was going to help her. As I said, surely somebody should go to help her, not thinking maybe I should get up and help her, but somebody will help her, right? She got a bag on her lap. I look at the lady at the gate and I said, listen, I'm going to go help this lady. So I go over there. I grab her and I said, can I take you to your gate, ma'am? And she said, oh, that would be wonderful. I said, oh, great. I said, let's go. So we hot-tailed it out of there. I got to her gate. She was just so happy. I said, well, thank you. I said, have a great day. I'm heading back. That makes my day, There's joy in giving, right? Whether it's money, whether it's time, there's always joy in that. So I was feeling great. I went back to my gate, hand the lady my ticket. She goes like this. I gave the lady my ticket. She hands it back. She goes, I gave your seat away. I said, what'd you do that for? She goes, well, you weren't here. And I'm thinking she knew where I was going. And instantly, I thought to myself, I went from, okay, compassion, to this anger. And I'm thinking, I can't believe I just did something nice, and all of a sudden something got taken from me. It went from helping somebody to all about me. And I said, you know what? I was compassionate to this lady I had to help, but now I'm going to be compassionate to the gate agent. She made a mistake. She knew it. By the look on her face, but she wouldn't want to say anything else to me. And I said, you know what? I said, that's fine. I said, no big deal. I said, see what you can do. And I just sat back. Finally, she comes over. She gives me a ticket. She goes, don't say a word, get on. That's what she said. Don't say a word, get on. I'm like, ooh. So I get on the plane. And lo and behold, I have one of these little jump seats. Y'all ever sit in one of these jump seats, right? But I'm facing the rest of the plane. It's at the front. You ever get in an elevator and not turn around, but you stare at everybody and they're like this? The whole flight, I had so much fun because all you had to do was look up at somebody and they look down. Look up at somebody and they look down. They thought I was an agent or something. I kept scratching like I had a piece on me. I said, that was all good. But let me tell you, if I would have missed my flight, it would have all been worth it. Because I said, you know what? It's not about me. If I had to push someone in that wheelchair every time and miss my flight or come in late, it would have been worth it. And I enjoyed that. Right when that happened, I said, that's what I'm doing this sermon on this next time. It's compassion. I'm going to read you from Luke 10, 30, 37. This is the parable of the Good Samaritan. This is awesome. Now listen to this. In reply, Jesus said, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road. Surely he'll stop. He saw the man pass by on the other side. So too a Levite, when he came to that place and saw him, he passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan man, as he traveled, came where the man was, and he stopped. He took pity on him. He went to him, bandaged his wounds, pouring out oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii, took out money, gave it to the innkeeper. Look after him, he said, and when I return, I will reimburse you any extra expense you have. This guy's going the extra mile, right? Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell in the hands of robbers? The expert in the law replied, the one who had mercy on him. Jesus told him, go and do likewise. Go and do likewise. There's a man, he's beaten half dead, just because someone's of high esteem or someone is in the church doesn't mean they're going to stop and help all the time. That's what I like about this story. It was the least likely person to stop and help this guy is who did it. So if any of you sitting here going, well, I'm not good enough, or I'm not in clergy, oh, I'm not a priest, I'm not this, I don't have to do all that. No, it's us. It's the least likely, those that are not on stage in the big scene, that can help. And that's what he did, and I really, really like that. You see, there's principles about loving our neighbor. There's principles about loving our neighbor. You see, the lack of love is often easy to justify, even though it's not right, right? Lack of love is easy to justify. You ask anybody, someone did them wrong? Oh yeah. They just agree with you because the lack of love train gets full quick. But it's not right. Our neighbor is anyone of any creed or social background or race who is in need. Our neighbor is anyone. You know, this whole thing with races, we are a human race, agreed? People have separated people. We are to love people, everyone. Number 3, love means acting to meet that person's need. See, wherever you live, there are needy people close by. Wherever you live. And there's really no reason for not acting and not helping. The only reason you don't is because you choose not to. I don't want to hear, well, you don't understand. Well, I do understand. You choose not to. Jesus exemplified this. 3 things that I see. Jesus saw, Jesus felt, and Jesus acted. You see that Good Samaritan? It's Jesus. The guy half dead on the sidewalk, that's us. He acted. What I see happening is we have many people who see. They see, oh, look. And many feel. They go, oh, look, oh, it breaks my heart. And then they turn around and walk away. But how many are acting? You see, the priest, the Levite, they saw. And they may have felt. They may have said, look, well, I'm going to pray for him, but I'm going to keep walking, right? How many people, you know, I've done it before. Oh, someone's hurt or someone needs something. Wait, I'll pray for you. Got to go. I mean, that's the truth. I'm being honest with you. I use my weaknesses to further God's kingdom. It's not about how good I am. It's about where God has allowed me to use these areas. Just like our testimony today. If he never used that testimony, what good is it? It's just a moaning. And nobody likes the moanies. It's a testimony. And God knew he would use that because that man's testimony is going to save people's lives. You can be kind. You can be a giver. It's your choice. Compassion is powerful. Today when you leave, your lives will be changed. That story that you heard from Jay, and what I'm going to tell you, this is great and this is true. There was a young boy, lived in poverty, very poverty-stricken neighborhood, was starving, didn't have any food, his parents were always at work. He said, I'm going down the road, I'm going to knock on the first door I come to, and I'm going to ask for food because I can't take it. He did. He went down the road, he knocked on the first door he saw, and out comes this beautiful young girl who happened to be a girl that went to his school. At that point, he shies up. He goes, oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was a different house. And she says, wait a minute, don't I know you? He says, well, I think we go to the same school. And she goes, yeah, I know, I've seen you there. And she goes, hold on 1 second. Not knowing what's going on, he waits. She comes back with a huge glass of cold milk. He recalls to this day and says, that was the best glass of milk I've ever had. Because he was in need, and she showed compassion. Now that's not it. Years later, this young boy becomes a physician. He's doing rounds at the hospital in a local town. He sees this lady's name, and he sees where she's from. He goes, that's the girl. That's the girl. He goes, he sees she's in the hospital. That's her. She's got something going on that no one can seem to figure out. He makes it his job. He says, I'm going to work. I'm going to make sure I can help heal this girl. He does. She spends 2 weeks in the hospital. He finds out what's going on. They treat her. She gets released, healed. She's home. She recalls dreading to get this bill. She knows 2 weeks in the hospital. She has no insurance. She gets the bill, looks at the total. It's astronomical. As she turns the page, she sees in red, paid in full, with 1 glass of cold milk. It still gives me chills hearing that story. And it's true. You don't think compassion changes lives? It does. People don't forget kindness. It goes a long way. Longer than you'll ever remember. I mean, it's unbelievable, right? You'll hear stories, but when you do it, think about it. That day, he received a glass of cold milk and he felt great. He recalls saying the compassion, the giving was so unbelievable that he said, I could never believe I could feel this good by helping. Matthew 7:12 says this, so whatever you wish that others would do to you, do also to them. Love that, right? You want people to do unto you what you would want. You know what I mean? I mean, that's really great, right? Fruits of the Spirit in Galatians talks about love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, self-control. Do all of us possess those at every minute? No, we don't. But thankfully, we have a God that loves us enough to help us, correct us. But when you're compassionate and when you're kind, those qualities do show through, right? As I was writing this, I got to tell you, this always happens to me. I'm doing my sermon, right? I'm at work one day. A guy calls me. I say, hey, how's it going, buddy? Hey, I have a question for you. I need some work on my car, and I'm not sure. And I'm thinking, I'm just busy. And I don't really do the work that he was wanting to do. I was very short. I was not compassionate. And I went on my day. He said, oh, no problem. Sorry to bother you. I said, yeah, I'm sorry. I got a couple things going on. Well, I go home that night and I'm working on this sermon. I can't concentrate. I can't get through 2 minutes of one line. I can't do it. And that keeps over playing in my head. Haha, you're doing a service on compassion. You were just a jerk today. I had to call the guy up, got his number, called him up, and I said, listen, I'm sorry. I said, I was too busy for you today, and I shouldn't have been. I said, it's not like me. I said, I apologize. He goes, oh my gosh. He goes, I can't believe you called me back for that. He goes, who does that? I said, well, I'm doing it. And I said, how can I help you? Long story short, got to help him, and it really felt so good. I was so busy at that time, but going back and making time for this guy, it was amazing. I had such joy in giving and helping this family. You see, compassion, unfortunately, is seldom seen. Many of you know, in December of last year, my dad went through a very tough ordeal. He had to have a heart surgery, valve replacement, a really good hospital in New York. As I went to visit him, I remember going in this hospital, guys. I am not kidding you. You walk in, it's gray. It's dark. It's dingy. This is one of the top 5 heart hospitals in the world. I will not say it's one of the top 5 compassionate hospitals in the world. No. But I'm grateful for the gifts that they have, the surgeons. So I walk in, and it's everywhere you walk, everybody, there's no smiles, there's no nothing. And it was like, it's driving me crazy, So I go up to the floor, and all the nurses, they come into Dad's room, and, he's out of it. You know what medication does, right? He's not my dad. He's just, Mom is really disheartened. She's been there 10, 15, 20 days. She never left his side. That's another sermon I'll get to. But one lady who was the head nurse on the floor, she comes in smiling, bright pink thing she has on. Hey, talking to my dad. He smiles. He responds to her. My mom loves her. Afterwards, I go and I say to her, I pulled her aside and I said, I just want to tell you, I'm an encourager. And I said, I am so grateful for you being here. I said, you just make such a difference. I said, in a place where I don't see a lot of differences. And she said, oh, that means the world to me. She says, thank you so much. And I'm so sad I'm retiring, And I said, well, really? I said, oh, that's a shame. She goes, yeah. She goes, my family doesn't think I should work, these hours anymore and everything. And I said, what do you think? She said, well, I love my job. I love it. I said, with all due respect, I said, I wouldn't quit. I said, you're working in a gifting and you love it. I said, you're allowing someone else to dictate where you are. And long story short, she stayed. She's still on. And I have a feeling that that day God used what I saw to bring her. She said, no one has told her what I told her. You couldn't help but see it. She was amazing. And that's what I remember. And I'm so glad that she's still there. You see, don't do this. Don't always be in a hurry to be compassionate. Don't be selfish to be compassionate. These are things you really can't do to be compassionate. Don't be closed off to be compassionate. Don't be hateful to be compassionate. Not going to happen. And the biggest compassion blocker, the biggest compassionate blocker, don't be self-absorbed. Self-absorption is one of the biggest blockers of compassion there has ever been. Because when it's all about me, it's never about anyone else. When your ambition is all about you, your ambition will end you. Think about that. When it's about you, it'll end you. So anyway, let me read you this. Compassion arises through empathy and is characterized by actions. The simple act of showing compassion can make a world of difference in someone's day and yours. You don't need to wait for a crisis to practice compassion either. Just try smiling at a stranger today. I met a lady once who shared with me she was going to take her life. On the way to take her life, someone held the door and smiled at her. She said, that was the first time in years I thought that anyone noticed me or cared about me. He held the door and he smiled, and she turned her life over that day. She said, I do matter. You guys are around people every single day, around your cars and everything else. If you can't look up and smile at someone, that'll make their day. A little kid or something that comes over, it'll make their day. You know what the highlight of my weekend was this weekend so far? It wasn't running really good. When the juniors were running, I went up to the stage plates. And it was really cool because I got to just be there. I didn't do anything. I was just there talking to some of the kids, and it just made me feel so good because that wasn't about me. See, at the car, it's always about us and what's going on, but that wasn't about me. But you see, all of you can do this. All of you have the gift to smile. Compassion should always come from your heart. And if your heart's for Jesus, it should be easy, right? But a lot of times, if your heart's not, if your heart's so full of hatred, anger, and everything else, how can you be compassionate? Have you seen an angry, hateful, hurtful person being very compassionate? I have not. They have moments, but very few and far between. This is what you do. You be considerate. You be affectionate. You communicate in a warm way. Who are you? Not, hey. You show empathy. You feel for people. You act. When you think you shouldn't act or you don't have time to act, you act. You be selfless. Practice acts of kindness. And show unconditional love. See, unconditional love, that's what the problem is today. We love if. If someone's good to you, you're going to love them, okay? We don't love, period. And what the Bible shows us about love is it was always love, period. Jesus always loved, period. The Samaritan man loved, period. Took out his own money to help someone else. And you know how you know you're doing it? When you're helping someone and you're not wanting anything in return. It took me years to get that right. I figured, well, if I help this person, I'm surely going to get something back. It was such the wrong attitude. And now that the attitude's right, and I want to be compassionate, and I want to be giving to someone, and I don't ever want it back, that's when God works. And he says, take care of you. I'll take care of you. What you have is not yours. But we get this, and we say it's mine, and we forget about the people that are living in poverty, about the people that don't have any food, about the boy that had nothing and needed a cold glass of milk. That's all she did was give him a cold glass of milk. But we're too busy with our cars and with our lives and with everything else. And I say this not to upset you because I've been there. I know what it was like to spend every waking hour of every day working on that car. And guess what? It's not worth it. You have families, you have people in your life that matter, that need your compassion. The people closest in your life, many families receive the least compassion from people. Oh, they give it here, give it there. How's your family? Well, they know I love them. They know. No, you got to practice it. You got to show it. You got to get off your butt and do it. And you know what? You know why you don't? You know why you don't? I have an answer. You don't want to. Well, that's not the answer. Yes, it is. You don't want to show compassion. Otherwise, every one of you would do it. Every one of you would go out of here, no matter if you lost, you won, whatever, and you'd be compassionate and you'd be kind to someone. But you got something else going on that says, I'm not doing it. And that's where I was. And you can change the world with compassion. You can save a person's life with a smile. These are true stories. I don't make these up. And as I'm writing these sermons, they come. And I hear it, and I see it, and it just all comes together. I love it, because compassion is what fuels us. As a Christian, Christ-like, if you're to be Christ-like, he showed compassion. And guess what? You don't have to go to somebody and go, are you a Christian? Let your actions be your sermon. Many of those who preach at you, that's not it. It's the action, it's the walk, right? Your actions, your attitude, your behavior, your character, conversation, your conduct. I've seen more stories of witness and more sermons in watching than I have ever listening. If you want to have amazing experiences in life, beyond what you can ever describe, I don't care if you're 5, I don't care if you're 50, 100, 2, doesn't matter, then practice compassion. You can do it today. You can start right when you leave here and all day. Don't quit tomorrow and say it was a one-day thing. I understand. I talk to people about working out, and that's physically hard. And okay, it's a different hurdle, but this is not hard. This is easy if you do it and you decide to do it. And you know what? What'll test you? Be compassionate to those people that beat you down. There's your witness. Somebody loves you. It's easy to love them, right? Hey, Jerry, I love you. Hey, it's great. It's easy. I love those relationships. Don't get me wrong. But those people who are nasty and mean, I don't shut them off and turn around. I just go right up to them. And it makes them so uncomfortable. Oh, I never forget a guy coming up to me. And he'd say, you know what? He goes, I don't like people. He goes, but I can't hate you yet. I said, that's okay. Because all I did was show compassion and show kindness. I don't want anything from him, but no one else can. Get that guy out of here. And I really enjoyed that. I really loved that. We got a lot of those guys in our racing today that are just, they're in their thing, but you love them. You don't put them away. That's what makes them harder. You love them. You show compassion to them. It'll change your life forever. That's all I'm going to tell you. It'll change your life forever. But as always, the choice is yours to make. Let's go in prayer. Lord, I thank you for this day. I thank you for the testimony we heard this morning. Lord, how powerful it is, Father. And Lord, that you are a gracious and compassionate God. We heard that in that testimony. You're so compassionate. We can't out-sin you. Father, let your example be that we can learn from if we want to. Help us to want to, Father. Help us to get rid of our selfishness. Help us to go along this day, Father, in showing compassion. Help us to smile and just be different. And when people ask what it's about, then we can talk about it. But otherwise, let our actions be that sermon, Father. Thank you for using me, Father, and using my selfishness and all the wrong things to turn it around and bring it to people. We're not perfect, but you are, and we're so grateful. In Jesus' name.